Hi guys, and welcome to Freckle Finance. Today my video is on what we are going to do with our investments now that we are moving to the US. And if you're not subscribed to me already and you want to follow my journey of moving to California, or just to be able to see my finance videos when they come up, click that subscribe button below so you can get a notification, and a thumbs up for moving to California. In regards to what we are going to be doing with our finances, there's what we expect we will have to do, and then in the future I will update you on what we will actually end up doing. So the complicated part about this is that we are going to be deemed a Canadian resident, which means we will still owe more taxes to Canada than what we will be paying in California. And for the most part, people like to avoid, paying more taxes than they need to. And as a Canadian citizen, we can be deemed a non-resident of Canada while still being a Canadian citizen. Now, this is not the way it works in the US. If you are a US citizen, you will always be deemed a resident and will always have to pay taxes back to the US. So this is not applicable for leaving the US for a different country. With that in mind, there are criteria to become a non-resident, and one of them is that you can't really have a lot of money in Canada. Now, we don't expect that we'll have to sell our RRSPs, but we might have to. We're not 100% sure on that yet, but we expect basically that we will have to sell all the rest of our investments, transfer all that into American dollars, and invest within the American market. And that's just probably what's going to happen. Now, the reason I don't know is because we need to actually hire a tax lawyer who is knowledgeable on Canadians living in the US. And that's actually fairly expensive. I've heard it quoted at about $250 per hour, but at the same time, it will probably save us a lot more than $250, or if it takes more than an hour, it's probably in the end, especially over, several years, probably going to save us a significant amount of money in comparison. So it definitely is worth us speaking with a tax lawyer, but at the same time, you don't want to spend a lot of money on the lawyer, so you want to know exactly the questions you have to ask first before we go there. So that's why we have a general idea, but we're not quite positive. We have asked a lot of people, and there has been a bit of variation in what people have done, but for the most part, as far as I've heard, no one has sold their RRSPs. Some people have left their tax-free savings account, and some of them haven't. So we're gonna have to wait on the advice, but we are fully prepared to sell everything else and move it into the American market if we have to. I'm not sure how soon we will know this. We already know we will obviously be deemed a Canadian resident for the year 2016. So I think we're hoping that for 2017 we will not be deemed a Canadian resident. And I do also want to point out that being deemed a non-resident of Canada doesn't mean that we can't in the future become a resident of Canada again. We can just move back and become a resident again. It's kind of like a little tax thing that you can get away with not having to pay taxes to Canada. And there's lots of other countries that do a similar thing. We're not earning our income in Canada, so I mean, if we don't have to pay taxes to Canada, why would you pay taxes, basically? That being said, if absolutely there was no issues with taxes or being deemed a non-resident or resident or anything like that, I think we would just keep it easy and keep all of our money in our Canada investments. But going forward, while we're in the US, we would be investing in the American market, just so that we wouldn't have to sell anything. But unfortunately, it's not usually that easy, and moving internationally, especially when you have investment accounts, is not easy. So there's a lot of work that goes into moving to a different country, and kind of at least a benefit that I can't work yet, so I will have time to figure a lot of this stuff out on behalf of both of us. If any of you have been in a similar situation as a Canadian moving to the US, and you have any knowledge or any questions that we should possibly ask a tax lawyer or anything, leave the questions down below so that you can save us time at the lawyer. Or if you've had any experiences, good or bad, a lawyer told you something and it actually turned out like this, we really want to know, because we don't want to delay this. We don't want this take longer, and we don't want the wrong advice. So definitely leave the comments down below. And if you have any further questions in regards to what we are doing with our investments, anything that I missed, make sure to ask in the comments down below so I can get back to you. And remember, no matter what your financial situation is, make sure to have a great day. Bye.